Woo. BRICS is coming for they next. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about why the BRICS strategy to destroy the US dollar globally through economic trade is gonna work. If you value this type of content, you're gonna wanna hear this perspective. Welcome to the channel. My name is Ashley. On my channel, Ashley in Africa, I share my experience of living and doing business here on the continent of Africa. I currently live in South Africa, and it was a strategic move, 2020, when I desired to live on a continent that had economic growth, that valued family and children, and that positioned me as a melanated queen, an African, to thrive. Not in a society where I was constantly fighting for equality and to be seen and to be heard and all of those shenanigans. I said, I'm moving to a place where I can eliminate this main issue of being in a minority, being underrepresented, underexposed, and along with my two young girls. So on this channel, I share my experience as well as foster community for people that desire to move and expand their businesses to the continent of Africa. So if that's you, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who would find value in it as well. And so let's get into this. I think there are so many people that don't really understand geopolitics, especially those in the US, because they don't talk about this on CNN. They don't talk about this on MSNBC. They don't talk about this on Fox News. The only time people in America hear about other countries is when something bad happens. And so I want to break down the conglomerate of BRICS to let you know, for all the naysayers, for all the people that don't understand what's happening or don't think that America could ever fall, I want to share with you the macro and microeconomics that essentially display why the BRICS conglomerate and the added on countries, BRICS Plus or whatever you would like to call it, BRICS as an entity is going to work. Okay, so we're going to talk about the collective powers, and I have my notes. And so as of April 2024, the individual strengths and contributions to the collective based on the country, you know, with some top line points, right? This is very top level. Continue to do your research. This is not financial advice, simply financial information that you, if you desire to live in an economy that's growing, if you want to be in a place where you are in alignment with the values, at least like your core values of family, of freedom, of peace, of mental stability, of safety, you can do your research on some of these countries and the economies and how they affect and impact you. So as I mentioned, the goal of the BRICS conglomerate, traditionally founded by the countries of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have a goal to strengthen the development of developing economies without having to go through, so these are my words, not theirs, without having to go through the traditional Western economic structure known as the US dollar or the SWIFT system. Each member brings their own unique strengths to the table. So let's start by talking about Brazil. Brazil is a very diverse economy. They have minerals, agriculture, manufacturing, and services, and Brazil is a vital voice for South America in the global affairs. It's also the #1 location of Africans outside of Africa, right? The continent of Africa. There are more melanated people of African descent in Brazil than anywhere else in the world. Why does that matter? Well, tap into your power, tap into your energy, and for those that know, for those that can hear, you understand. The next, Russia. Russia is abundant in natural resources, regardless of what they have us thinking that Russia is just the ice. No, Russia is abundant in natural resources, energy exports, including oil and natural gas. While the US has placed sanctions on them and you've got Visa, MasterCard, these folks moving out, Russia's economy has continued to grow ever since then. And they are a significant counterbalance to Western powers in global geopolitics. Now, you also can do your inquiries on that as well. What does that mean? Well, you know, people don't play with Putin. And as a dictator, Putin has been in power for years, and he's a very smart man. I don't know if you've ever heard him speak, but I'll link a couple videos below. He did a video with the Fox News guy, and it was, you know, he's a quite intelligent man who speaks truth as well as just common sense. And as someone who grew up in the US, grew up thinking that all of these other, you know, dictators were bad people, well, I now understand and respect the position of dictatorship, especially in the current economic landscape that we're in. But these are my personal positions. India, one of the world's fastest growing economies. They have a very strong foothold on technology. For those that have worked in the tech space, startup space, you can have an entire development team based in India for, you know, labor costs, but also just, you know, mental capital. India is leading, you know, really in the space of technology as far as talent, services, and manufacturing. Strategic, you know, they have a manufacturing strategic importance in the regional and global geopolitical space that cannot be overstated. China. I mean, China is the world's second largest economy. They are a global player in trade and investment, and China's role in the supply chain is pivotal. If you lived in the US during COVID and you saw how things were taking forever to arrive, building, you know, houses, you couldn't get access to certain products for building, couldn't get access to certain foods, certain paper goods. China, not only are they producing and manufacturing most of the world's goods, they are transporting most of the world's goods, right? And so China is a pivotal part of the global supply chain, and, you know, just geopolitically, put some respect on their name. South Africa, the place that we call home, serves as a gateway to Africa. South Africa is the most developed country on the continent of Africa, and they play a crucial role in African politics and economic development. Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporter, adds significant economic weight to BRICS. So Saudi Arabia these are now countries that joined after the BRICS summit held here in Johannesburg, South Africa in August of 2023. These are the countries that were not the founding countries, but essentially the huge players that add huge weight to this BRICS conglomerate. United Arab Emirates, major global commerce hub, diversified economy, including oil, exports to tourism, finance. The UAE is a huge player in the economic development space of this next economic revolution. Iran, despite sanctions and how they are being positioned in Western media, they have considerable oil reserves and a large consumer market. They are strategically important in the Middle East. Next is Egypt. Egypt is also a huge economy here on the continent of Africa. They have control over the Suez Canal, which in their strategic location, they play a crucial role in the global trade routes. Last but not least, Ethiopia, another of the strong economies here on the continent, one of Africa's fastest growing economies. Their progress in manufacturing and infrastructure is boosting its profile on the continent, and just their, you know, cultural sovereignty personally is quite commendable. So, you know, economic growth, development, and a greater independence from the traditional Western systems is the goal of the economic conglomerate of BRICS. And, you know, these expansions do pose challenges. It's hard to get so many countries, especially developing countries, with sovereignty, culturally, spiritually, language. Getting them all on the same page, it is a challenge, but they have a common sentiment of wanting to develop outside with more independence from the traditional Western system. And that's their goal, right? So when you have a goal and you do something every day towards that goal, you can achieve it, even though it's going to be rocky along the way. So, you know, figuring out a strict charter, mirroring their concerns that are happening with the EU seems to be some of the challenges that they're having. But when you look at the potential of these countries, the power of these countries, as we're going away from traditional media to social media, and the power and the influence of people on the ground in these developing countries, showing us who these emperors are, it makes sense. And people don't want to be a part of things that are not good for the greater good of others and people. And so systems like the SWIFT system imposed by the West and imposing sanctions on these developing countries because they simply don't agree with your economic and your political practices is something that people, especially in the, you know, Gen Z, they're not going for it. And millennials, you know, some of us are getting it together. Some of us are just kind of stuck and paralyzed with fear. But here, I'm here to give you content and information for you to do additional research. I'll link some videos below and some articles below that you can kind of tap into. But the reality is de-dollarization is happening, and it will happen. As you know, we saw the Bitcoin surge, and that fact, whether we want to believe it or not, digital currency is happening. It is the way of the future. And whether the BRICS currency is a digital currency or it's just a digital system that allows people to trade their currency outside of SWIFT, which already exists, by the way, because China, India, and UAE have already begun trading in digital currencies with each other. You know, 95% of the trades amongst the BRICS conglomerates have happened using their local currencies. And this is a huge shift. And, you know, while it looks like things are up in the US, it feels like they're down, and feelings never lie, right? Our emotions are information telling us that we need to make a change. We need to make a shift. And there's a growing trend towards emerging economies. If you're seeing the news, you're feeling uncomfortable or uneasy, trust those feelings. And if you value content like this, click the link below. You can join our AIA Insider. It's a newsletter with exclusive information on BRICS, updates on Africa, data analytics, white papers, research papers being put out by different institutions that I get access to weekly. You'll get emails on that and be a part of a community that is looking towards accessing wealth, not only financially, but mentally, spiritually, physically, in an environment that is more in alignment with the values that you have and you desire for your future and the future of your children. So the link will be below. Join us in the AIA Insider. You can access this content free for the first month. And then after the first month, you can join the community for a full year. So if you find value in that type of content, you will be blown away by the content in the AIA Insider. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Share it with someone who would find value in it as well. And stay tuned to more content like this by subscribing to the channel. Until the next time, I'll see you soon.